Hello, everyone. Today we'll be doing our case study on Salmonella Thompson, the seafood outbreak. And my name is Matt Drossel. I'm a third year Recreation Parks and Tourism major.
Hey guys, my name is Ethan Marking. I am a fourth year APE student with a concentration in plant protection science.
Hi, I'm Raina Hagen. I'm a fifth year and an agricultural science major.
Hi, everyone. I'm Josh Dean, fourth year agriculture communication student.
Hello, my name is Ignacio and I'm a fourth year agricultural science major.
So before we jump into the case study, I just want to talk briefly about the organism. Salmonella infection, also known as salmonellosis, is a common bacterial disease that affects the intestinal tract. It lives in the intestinal tracts of animals and also birds, and it's transmitted to humans by eating foods contaminated with feces, usually the animal feces. It's spread through contaminated food or water. And the symptoms include diarrhea, fever, chills, and abdominal pain. And Thompson is the serotype of Salmonella, which in other words is a distinguishable strain of the microorganism. So for the product description, in the outbreak, the products that were contaminated were seafood, more specifically haddock, monkfish, bone-in trout, grouper, red snapper, red rock cod, ocean perch, Pacific cod, halibut, coho salmon, Atlantic salmon portions, lane snapper, tilapia, all natural salmon fillet, Pacific sole, and farm-raised striped bass. This food was intended to be either refrigerated, cooked, or frozen after it was sold. It was identified that the Northeast seafood products were the common supplier of the contaminated food. And the restaurants they were sold to were Albertsons, Safeway, and Sprouts grocery stores in Colorado from May 2021 through October 7th, 2021. And the products were sold fresh, raw, and unpackaged. It was reported that a lot of the people who got sick had eaten both raw and cooked sushi. For the shelf life, it's supposed to be refrigerated at 40 degrees Fahrenheit, and you're supposed to refrigerate it 1 to 2 days before cooking or freezing it. After cooking it, you're supposed to refrigerate it for 3 to 4 days. And you're not supposed to leave it out for more than 1 to 2 hours when it's 90 degrees Fahrenheit or above. And the reason for this is that the bacteria grows very quickly when it is above 90 degrees.
Firstly, before any of the products arrived at the grocery store or restaurant, that eventually led to salmonella poisoning. The fish are either caught in the wild or farm raised. They then proceed through a variety of quality assurance steps to ensure that the quality, temperature, and any features of the fish meet the standards and criteria that the company would like. They are then received at a processing facility where the processes begin as follows: washing, cleaning, and scaling, gutting, then washing again, refining the meat and deboning, which then begins the sorting of parts. They're rewashed, ran through an X-ray and metal detector to ensure that any foreign material are not in the fish. They are then passed on to packaging and freezing, which will lead to delivering and transportation, which in the end results to the product being showcased and sold in a grocery store or utilized and sold in dishes in a restaurant.
There we go. So I had the hazard analysis. That's pretty much what are the three hazards that you'll find in seafood. The first one is physical. So that's stuff like you can find metal fragments such as fish hooks, the utensils that that are used during the food processing. Sometimes fish eat microplastics, and that can also get into the food. And then you also have your natural components, so such as in shellfish, fish bones, stuff like that. The second one is biological, so that's where the Salmonella outbreak happened, and you also have like other foodborne illnesses such as Listeria, Staphylococcus aureus. And then an interesting one that I found was during certain times of the month, there's a red algae bloom that can create a very harmful algae when consumed. And since shellfish are filter feeders, they'll pretty much soak up all that bad red algae, and it can be very poisonous. What else is there? And then finally, chemical hazards. These can range from a variety of things, but the main issue with shellfish is it can accumulate in fish tissue. So that's stuff like mercury, PCBs, stuff like legacy pesticides. That's just pesticides that were used in California. You actually find a lot of it in California. All those pesticides that you see on the screen, such as DDTs and all that, are completely banned, but you still find them in our fish today. And the only way that you really can avoid those is by simply eating less fish. There's no other way of getting around those. So also for the flow diagram, it wants you to, where would these be? Normally you find the physical hazards in the very beginning during the processing. They should be taken out during x-ray, but not all the time. Also for at the very end, they want to make sure that for the chemical, you just have to avoid eating fish. And then finally, biological, you just have to make sure your food is fully cooked.
Hi, my topic is on critical control points. And what a critical control point is, as defined by the FDA, is a step at which control can be applied and is essential to prevent or eliminate a food safety hazard or reduce it to an acceptable level. So examples of this could be temperature control or pH control or moisture level control. And with what we're talking about with salmonella and seafood specifically, I think the most important controls are temperature, moisture level, time, water activity, and available chlorine, which is very important when it comes to seafood. And also, there's other parameters like visual appearance and texture of the seafood, as seafood is highly perishable and has to be kept under certain conditions. Those being temperature and moisture level, and the amount of time, I would say, is the most important. How long you are holding it in a certain area and how long you are applying a certain temperature or a pH level or a moisture level. And in order to maintain a lot of these things, there are a number of controls that you can apply to, such as temperature. You could for seafood, you want to keep it frozen to keep it fresh and keep parasites and pathogens at bay. For time, you never want to store it or leave it out where it is not properly controlled by temperature for a certain amount of time. Depending on the seafood, most of the time the lifespan is very, very short, and moisture level is incredibly important, because if there's too much moisture, there is room and a breeding ground for pathogens and biological germs and bacteria to grow. And keeping that moisture level with refrigeration at a good level is extremely important for seafood. And pH can also be controlled through different means, applications. as well as checking and monitoring available chlorine in order to not have it at a dangerous level or not have it at a level too low in order to create a safe environment for the seafood to be held in the refrigeration unit.
Yeah, so moving on. Other questions. So the company Northeast Seafood Products, which is based in Denver, Colorado, has been struck with huge controversy about their product. And in fact, this October, there was an outbreak in a variety of their seafood products, causing many people to become sick. There have been 102 illnesses that have been reported so far, and some of the states that have been affected by the outbreak include Arizona, Colorado, Connecticut, Iowa, Minnesota, Missouri, Nebraska, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Texas, Virginia, Washington, Wisconsin, and Wyoming. And then the little numbers that you see in parentheses indicates the number of people in each state who have been confirmed to have the Salmonella Thompson variant. And then more recently, several lawsuits have been issued by Schmidt PLLC against the Northeast Seafood Company. And Schmidt PLLC is fighting on behalf of a client, and he was a man who was diagnosed with salmonella after eating the product or Northwest's products, and those products included salmonella, halibut, and cod, and he purchased those products at a local Sprout market. Currently, the case is still ongoing, and so we are still awaiting a verdict, and ultimately we'll find out what that will be. And then you can move the slide. All right, so next, move on to what we've learned. So some symptoms of Salmonella Thompson are diarrhea and a fever of higher than 102 degrees Fahrenheit. So diarrhea for more than 3 days that is not improving. Bloody diarrhea, vomiting that you cannot keep liquids down, and then signs of dehydration, which include not urinating much, dry mouth and throat, or feeling dizzy when you stand up. It is also extremely important to pay close attention to recalled products. So some things you should do if you have these recalled products at home are, number one, don't eat or cook the foods. Number two, sanitize objects that came in contact with those foods. And then number three, if you have any food that you don't know whether or not they were provided by that company that recalled them, you should just throw them out regardless, just so that you're safer. And that's all for me.